Race and whiteness, an ever-changing idea.
Do you enjoy history?
Not really.
Why is that?
I don't necessarily dislike it. I just kind of find it pointless because the past cannot be changed. What's the point in learning useless facts and remembering dates when it has nothing to do with the present one myself?
What if I showed you how history relates to every aspect of present day and to every single person on Earth?
What makes you different genetically than the people sitting in class right beside you of different skin colors? Black, white, Hispanic, Asian? The answer is nothing, because everyone shares almost 100% of the same genetic code makeup, despite the factor of race. This, along with other points within this documentary, will argue the fact that race is a social construct and not a biological concept, hopefully giving viewers insight on the idea of race.
Do you understand the definition or meaning of the term race?
I've never been asked to describe it. I've always had to check the box on the government documents. I would say it's a way of identifying yourself based on the color of your skin and biological makeup.
I would think that's how most people would answer. However, I have read a book that does a better job of describing it. The book is called The History of White People by Neil Irvin Painter.
Painter describes race as not a matter of biology as most people assume, but reaching into the concepts of labor, gender, class, and images of personal beauty. Biologists no longer believe in the physical existence of race, but as an idea that society has constructed over time. Long ago, the idea of race had not yet been invented, and people's skin color didn't carry any meaning. For example, as early as the times of BC, Northern Europeans were known by tribal names of Scythians and Celts, and then later Gauls and Germani. They were categorized by these names and not by the term white, although they were light-skinned, but by where they lived and the description of the land.
How has being identified as white affected you or your ancestors differently than if you were any other race?
I believe that while living in America, being white has definitely granted me white privileges in certain situations, and also slavery is a big factor within the past for my ancestors. With my ancestors being white, they didn't have to overcome the issues of slavery and civil rights such as African Americans did.
Very true. However, slaves at one point in history were of the white race as well.
Before the 18th century boom in African American slave trade, Vikings sold light-skinned white European and Russians as slaves as well. However, Europe was constructed of two slave groups. The Africans and Tartars were associated with brute labor and were seen as ugly, while Circassians, Georgians, and Caucasians of the Black Sea were luxury slaves, valued for sex, usually were female, and came to be the epitomes of human beauty. When African American slave trade became popular, Americans started relating whiteness back to the idea of freedom and blackness with slavery, while actually, white slavery played a huge part in moving people around and mixing up genes on a global scale. The history of these slave groups and their differences brought the official terms we know today while filling out documents, such as the term Caucasian. After the two different groups of slaves, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach in 1795 found interest in these groups and their differences and began writing about the varieties of skin colors using the word Caucasian, or white-skinned people. He thought these people were the most beautiful and were located around the area of Caucasus, a border between Europe and Asia. He even started ranking skin color varieties hierarchically. Beginning with a white skin color, this linked the term Caucasian with beauty. This concept of white skin related to the idea of beauty continued, even to this day, and can be seen within art, history, and popular culture. You might also wonder how else the idea of whiteness has changed over many years and how it still plays an effect on America today. As Neil Irvin Painter describes in her book, there are four major expansions of what America considers whiteness throughout history. The first three expansions are of whiteness, because at that time it was assumed that to be American you first had to have white skin. The first expansion occurred within the Jacksonian era, when citizenship criteria were changed from wealth to race. Males of any income became eligible to vote as long as they were considered white. However, that changed in the 20th century when groups came in as immigrants, and people of Irish background were incorporated into the idea of American whiteness. The third expansion took place in the 1930s. Fighting in World War II opened up Americanness to people who had been considered alien races, and for their children and grandchildren. Currently, we are in the midst of the fourth expansion, with the idea that to be American, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be white. With this expansion, we can no longer sum up America as one race or person.
Learning this information within this documentary presented you with any enduring lessons?
It has also proven to me and reminded me of the lesson that as people we are truly all equal because races do not really exist. With this, I can view issues that are going on in today's society, such as the issue of immigration, with a different, more open mindset.